Yes, guys, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boy, Big Dave. Fresh off a nice long walk, 45 minutes on my box machine, and a good cup of green tea. And I feel like Mike Tyson right now, and I'm absolutely pumped for tomorrow's game. Of course, I am here to bring you your predicted lineup as usual as Tottenham host Bournemouth down at N17 and what is the penultimate game of 2023. And no pun intended, but I do hope this will be the cherry on top of what has been a good end to the year under Ange Postecoglou. As we all know, the start of the year wasn't great with in terms of performances. The way Conte stormed out, it looked like we were going into bleak times. But Ange Postecoglou has completely flipped that 180 completely on its head and has given us Spurs fans belief, hope, and renewed optimism. So hopefully we can get the 3 points, deliver the cherry on top, and head into the new year with a lot of goals and a lot of ambition, which would be absolutely brilliant. Now, I am going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to give you the lineup that I think Ange Postecoglou will go with, and then I'm going to give you the lineup that I think we should go with, which are very, very sort of valid reasons for. So let me know in the comment section what lineup you want to see, the one that Ange is going to go with or the one that I'm going to pick. Now, let's get straight into it, and let's start with Guglielmo Vicario. Actually really felt sorry for him the other night. As we know, and as I said last week, you know, he can't keep bailing us out every single week. At some point, other players in front of him are going to have to step up because being tested regularly, a lot more regularly than what he was in the first 10 games of the season. Yes, we can put that down to injuries, this, that, and the other. I get it. And I know people are going to say, but Dave, it's his job. But there does come a point where he's facing too much on goal and he can't keep them all out. And that's exactly what happened against Brighton. So people in front of him are going to have to tighten up. Also, another reason why I felt sorry for him, for years I've been screaming for a goalkeeper that will scream at people from set pieces, get them organised, this, that, and the other. And then we wonder why we have such a problem with set pieces. Well, I tell you what, Johnny, who I think it was Johnny anyway, who does be on this channel from time to time when we have conversations about Tottenham, I think he took a video from the South Stand. It was actually the corner that was delivered in where Kulusevski gave away the penalty. And Vicario screaming at people, trying to organise and put them in positions. But nobody is listening. He actually has to go over to Pedro Porro, grab him, and physically move him to where he wants him to be. And then we wonder why we have such problem from set pieces, because every one of our outfield players uses that sort of a break, time to switch off. And then we wonder why we've conceded 12 goals from set pieces this season. That's from free kicks, corners, and giving away penalties. We've given away just as much already this season as we did in the entirety of last season. And then players are going to have to wake up and start switching on from them set pieces. But look, we're going to need another massive masterclass from Vicario heading into this game. Bournemouth are on absolute fire. And Solanke's on absolute fire. So he knows where the net is. He's confident. Anything that falls his way, he's going to be confident to dispatch. With our backline leaking goals the way they are, he's going to be tested. And we're going to need him to step up once again. And I have no doubt he will. And what I loved as well, when he's walking off the pitch, you could see him slapping the sign on the way out. He was absolutely angry with that defeat. Absolutely angry with conceding 4 goals, which I absolutely love and I haven't really seen from a goalkeeper in quite some time at Tottenham. So it's great to see that from Vicario. Now, moving on to left back, and we are going to stick with Destiny Udogie. Of course, we have no one else to play, so we're going to stick with the big dog. What I will say about me, he tried his hardest the other night, especially going forward to try and affect the game. Some amazing runs going forward. However, I would love to see maybe a bit more end product from him. I think that comes down to confidence when he's in that final third. Have the confidence to drive at people and make a daisy run into the box and have a shot. Be a bit more confident to cross the ball rather than giving it back to someone else to sort of do it. Just a bit more confidence. But one hell of a player we have here. And I will say he set up Kulusevski's goal in the reverse fixture earlier on in the season, getting down the left-hand side, cutting in and squaring it for Kulu to tap home. So more of that from the big dog, Destiny Udogie. Now moving on to right back, there's no more superlatives I can use for Pedro Porro. But one thing I did notice is it was a great ball in the box for Ben Davies when we tried to salvage something from that Brighton game. But when it comes to Pedro Porro, I don't think we utilize his sort of ability on the ball as much as we should. And what I mean by that is especially from set pieces, corner kicks, free kicks, even crosses into the box. I think we need to commit more people in there. I haven't seen someone with a delivery like Pedro Porro since David Beckham. And that's why I call him Bend It Like Porro, delivers nationwide. And hopefully he'll step up again against Bournemouth, because these are the fine little margins that we can sort of capitalise on that really do make a difference. Last season under Conte with Gio, I think we scored 12 to 15 goals from set pieces alone last season. So it's a huge asset, and I do think it's something that we should probably capitalise and utilise a hell of a lot more. Now, moving on to the centre-back partnership, I'm just going to bring both of them in together. For me, this back four cannot continue. This back four has been rolled out in 3 games so far this season, and they've conceded 9 goals. That's on average 3 goals a game. So when that back four is rolled out, we have to automatically go and try and score 4 goals to win a game. And we're exactly where we were last season. And we know that is not sustainable. However, I do think Postecoglou will go with Royale and Davies. Of course, I don't blame them all exactly for the Brighton game. I thought the midfield was atrocious. In fact, I thought it was missing completely, which left them exposed a hell of a lot, especially the way we asked the sort of fullbacks to play. But it was completely disjointed, and it did not look like one cohesive defensive unit. And I get we've got injuries. I get we've got, fullbacks like Emerson playing there. I don't take that argument with Davies because he's played centre-back for Wales and for Tottenham last season and that. So I don't really take that argument for him. But it's just not good enough. And I get we're down to scraping the barrel. However, you can't keep, putting these out there with 3 goals conceded the minimum. At some point, you have to change something for me, and that will be personnel, which I will come back to. Emerson didn't win one area duel the last game, and Davies and Emerson were just shocking on the ball. In fact, they were that bad on the ball, which we know from the Man City game. We end up resorting, giving the ball back to Vicario a lot of times, and he ended up pumping it long, which we know is not his game. It was very reminiscent of the way we were last year underneath Antonio Conte, trying to play out from the back, but just don't have the players to do it. So for me, I am going to switch it up, and I will come back to that. Now, moving into CDM, and I do think Ange Postecoglou will go with Ollie Skip. Look, I do think he was due to start against Brighton, but as we know, he picked up a knock. But he did travel with the team, which was sort of strange, and he was getting off the bus with his boot bag and stuff like that. However, there was a knock. He didn't play. But I feel like if he is fit, and it will come down to a late fitness test, I think Ollie Skip will come back in there. And again, it's going to cause us trouble. All Bournemouth will have to do is just last year's settings against us. Go and press Tottenham. They will crumble. They don't have the ability on the ball. They'll go back to the keeper. He'll kick it long. You pick up the ball, and then you just run at them and get shots off on their goal. So, but look, with Ollie Skip, this is a massive opportunity for him. Look, one thing I don't want to see is Højbjerg, and I'm going to tell you why. I am at the point now where I think he has to be sold. I still think he doesn't get enough credit for the service he's given Tottenham or the effort he's putting in the Tottenham jersey. But the other night, he pulled out 2 challenges that he would never have pulled out of before if there wasn't a move on the cards for him. And for me, he's saving himself for that move. Anytime the ball came near him, he was very quick just to sort of get rid of it because he didn't want contact. He doesn't want to risk injury before a move. So I don't want to see him playing. I don't think Ange Postecoglou will put faith in him. I think that was a needs must because Ollie Skip wasn't available. But Ollie Skip has to start growing up at some point. He's 22, 23 now. He's not a boy anymore. He's a man. He's going to have to start manning up, being braver on the ball. But also, he needs to, one thing that he's supposed to be good at is breaking up play, but he doesn't do that. He's just caught aimlessly wandering around the midfield. We'll need an absolute massive performance from Ollie Skip. And I'd argue a performance to show us something that we haven't really seen from the guy as of yet. But again, I would make a different change there, which I'll come back to in my lineup. Now, we will move on to the right-hand side of midfield, and we will stick with Papa Matasar. Now, granted, sort of rather anonymous against Brighton last week, tried his hardest, but, the other midfielders around him were so far off it. We've seen it when Højbjerg was playing there with Winks. If Højbjerg goes and Winks doesn't go, it creates havoc. It's very easy to play around. And that's what happened. Papa Matasar tried to join the press. None of the other midfielders really went with him. And Brighton just played right through us. Nowhere near good enough. However, he was absolutely superb in the reverse fixture against Bournemouth, helping Pedro Porro down that right-hand side. And they caused us big problems, or tried to cause us big problems down that right-hand side last time, trying to expose what they thought was a weakness. But also, I remember Sarr being very good going forward. If I remember correctly, he might have got an assist in that game or played a wonderful through ball to Richarlison and he didn't bury it. But I do expect him to be back at his very best for this game and give us a good send-off before he heads off to AFCON. Now, moving on to the partnership in midfield, and we will be bringing in Giovanni Lo Celso. Now, with Lo Celso, You've got two options here in retrospect. You can sort of play Jamie Donley and put him into sort of a natural position where he's been playing for the under 21s, where he's received all the plaudits, all the acclaims, which rightly so has come his way. We know it's a player that will, out of possession, will look to press at every opportunity and go with the likes of Richarlison and people like that. But also on the ball, he's very creative and has been for the under 21s with an eye for goal. But look, I do think Postecoglou will sort of pick Giovanni Lo Celso. And of course, this change has to be made because Kulusevski picked up his fifth yellow card against Brighton, which means he carries a one-game suspension and is out today. And that yellow card was for that penalty, which was just lazy defending on Kulusevski's behalf. But look, whoever plays in this position, I do think it will be Lo Celso. His main job is to provide that creativity. And if he doesn't do it, I will be on his case. I don't care about little intricate 5-yard passes in front of the opposition. I don't care about him progressing the ball from deep. If he's in the team to be creative, he has to create chances, and it's that simple. Now, we're going into a January transfer window. This is your opportunity to show us you want to be here. That simple. That's where I'm at with Giovanni Lo Celso. Now, we will keep this moving because, like I said, I want to come back and change a few things around and give you my lineup. And we will go on to the left wing. And that is our captain. That is our leader. That is Sonaldo. Now, interesting fact, he is the only player remaining at the club that started that Champions League final in 2019, which is really sort of disappointing to hear. But I will also add, he's been really disappointing in the last two games. Everton, I thought he was way off the pace, despite, putting in that excellent rebound from Pickford's parry. But also at Brighton, I thought it was very poor. And we actually really need our captain, our leader, to sort of step up and put in a performance in this game. But I'd also argue, when you're down to injuries, when you're down to suspensions and stuff like that, that's when you look at your leader most. That's when your leader is tested most. And I want him to go out there against Bournemouth and show why Ange Postecoglou has given him that captain's armband. Because to be honest, when the chips are down and everyone's playing poor, that's when your leader needs to step in. Hugo Lloris failed to do it last year, and it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And I'd argue Sonny's sort of failing to step in on the pitch. Maybe a great leader in and around the place, which is, I think, a massive reason why he got the job. But you also need that guy on the pitch. And he has to start bollocking players. He has to start encouraging players. Whatever he's got to do, he has to do. And he has to take more grip during game with that captain's armband and prove why Ange Postecoglou picked him out of everybody at the club. But look, I've no doubt he'll want to sort of give us a nice send-off before he heads off to the Asian Cup as well. Hopefully he does. And I think he will. I think he'll step up. I think he'll give Bournemouth an absolute nightmare. Now, moving on to the right-hand side. No, again, that's wrong. Give me 1 second. But it is a guy that I find really, really sort of frustrating at this moment. And that is Brennan Johnson. And the reason why I find him really frustrating is because initially, he's got all the raw and the right attributes, that raw pace, speed, the confidence to get beyond his man, go direct at his man. And he does that very, very well. And he actually finds himself into great positions to be able to affect the game. However, and I keep saying it every week, and I keep being proven right every week, that final ball is not there. And that's something he really needs to work on, that crossing, picking that final pass, that calmness in the moment. Look, I will give the guy a bit of time because, to be fair, at Nottingham Forest, they played on the counter. So when he was bombing down that right-hand side, he had so much space to bomb into. He had less of a congested area to sort of pick out his crosses, his final ball and stuff like that. Coming to Tottenham with the way we play in possession, a lot of teams do put their men behind the ball and it is harder to break down. So it is going to take time. However, when you've got a young player like that and it's not working, because I'd argue that's exactly what Brian Gil-Messi sort of gets criticism for from the fan bases, maybe that final decision making. You have to dip him in and out. You can't just keep persisting with him every single week. You have to dip him in and out. And when he comes to you and says, Gaffer, why am I being dipped in and out? You turn around and say, okay, well, you've got everything to your game. Now you need to provide the consistency and coach him that way. Look, I'm not telling Ange how to coach. I get why he's doing it. We're very low on players, very short on players. But if he's not doing the right job, bring Gill in. Give him the opportunity, because I guarantee you, Brennan Johnson will buck up his ideas very quickly, and he'll learn more from being dropped and the reasons that would be given to him, rather than just keep putting him out there every week. Gone to some great positions against Brighton. At one stage, with a long ball over the top, head of, I think it was Igor. He had Son and Richarlison running beside him. All you had to do was square it, simple tap in. And he took a touch and it went way out wide. Completely killed the attack. Earlier on in the game, he had a couple of great opportunities just to put the ball in across to Richarlison. Didn't do it. Couldn't find his man. And they're the moments that are absolutely clinical and crucial for us. We look to get off the fast starts, put the team on the back burner from the very off. And we need to capitalize on that when we do that. So he has to be better in that regard for me. And now we will move on to the guy up front, the man of the moment, and that is Richarlison. Now, I have seen maybe some people sort of turn on Richie a little, saying, oh, look, back to the same old Richarlison. I would say hold your horses. Look, Richarlison, I'm not denying he had some great opportunities against Brighton, right? He hit the post, I think, twice. He had two, or at least once. He had two disallowed goals as well, 4 offside. And he had a couple of other chances as well that he spurned. But the guy is still getting into the positions, into the right positions. And that's good. If it's time to worry is when your striker isn't getting into them positions. It means he's totally shot of confidence. He's shying away from responsibility. But Richarlison isn't doing that. All game kept on putting himself into that position. And out of the ball, one of the only ones relentlessly all night trying to press that Brighton team to force them into long ball, which we didn't really do to any great effect. But for me, I have no doubt if you put them chances on the plate from against Bournemouth, I think he'll take them this time around. We have to remember, even Harry Kane had games like that, the odd game like that, where chances were coming his way and he just couldn't put them away, just couldn't find that finish. Every great striker has that sort of day. So I'm not pulling the panic alarm on it yet. I think he'll step up against Bournemouth. Now, guys, into the lineup that I want to put out. So bear with me. I'm just going to make the couple of changes here very, very quickly. And the first one will be Emerson Royal for Ashley Phillips. So that's changed. The next change will be Ben Davies out and Dorrington in. And I know people are going to call me crazy. The next change then at CDM would be Skip out, Celso in. And I know people are going to call me crazy. And then the final change I would make is, of course, Celso comes out of there and Donley comes in. Now, the reason why I'm going to make the changes across the back line, personally, I think it was an excuse Postecoglou gave the players in the press after the game. You've got sort of a split second, a couple of minutes with the raw emotion and the adrenaline run through your body to make that decision. Do you go and berate the players after a performance like that, or do you protect them? Now, he obviously looked at what Antonio Conte done last season after the Southampton game, berated them. Look at the reaction and look what ultimately ended up happening. Conte ended up sort of sacking himself, and there was no way back for him with that playing squad. So we know they can't take that. So Postecoglou done the right thing. However, if they are tired, which they shouldn't be because Davies has rode the bench majority of the season, along with Emerson Royal, along with Skip, Højbjerg, Celso, people like that, well, I'd argue bringing substitutions on in the game against Brighton towards the end, freshened up. We really went for the game. We looked like the old Tottenham, went for the game. So why not make some changes? Now, across the back line, our biggest problem is we're playing across that back line without any real sort of natural centre-backs. Although Davies has played there for a number of years, he played the majority of his career at left-back. He ain't a natural sort of centre-back. And it tells when we're playing with him and Emerson there. Now, Emerson, I think, was his probably first bad game this season. But look, for me, it can't continue, right? The first 10 games, we went unbeaten. And I know people are going to say injury, suspensions, everything else. Great. But we've also lost 5 of our last 9 with some of them guys playing, which proves to me the backup guys aren't good enough. And we're already putting ourselves in a position we're having to score 3-4 games just to go and win a game. And we know from last season, that's not sustainable. So you have to make a couple of changes. And what I will add is, when it looked like we were going back to the same old against Aston Villa Wolves, Postecoglou made a couple of changes and he got reaction and we went back to being the same old Tottenham. Now, there's signs the other night that we were looking to go back to the same old Tottenham. So for me, shake it up. You're talking about people that are playing at centre-back. Well, these two guys are a ready-made partnership at centre-back. Yes, both 18 years of age. I completely get that. But at the end of the day, they're natural to that position. Emerson and Davies' biggest problem was trying to progress the ball out from the back from that back line, which they couldn't do, which they ended up resorting going back to Vicario a hell of a lot of time. Now, I also blame some of the midfield in front of them. They weren't brave enough to come and look on the ball. But with Romero and Van de Ven, one thing they can do, if the option isn't there, they can run it themselves or they can play that ball beyond the midfield. Emerson and Davies do not have that capability, so they can't play that way. So for me, when you look at Phillips and Dorrington, they've played that way in the under-21s, a massive part of why they got off to the great start they did. So Dorrington, I'd say his biggest asset is on the ball. Why not give them the opportunity? Now, the next thing people are going to tell me is, oh, Dave, what is it? They're young, they're inexperienced, you're going to ruin them. Not necessarily. I think if you played one of them in beside an Emerson or a Davies, you might ruin it, and maybe Postecoglou doesn't want to do that. But for me, when you've got players in that team that just aren't good enough for conceding too many goals, and we're getting back to the same point where we were at last season, why not make a change rather than persist with the same sort of players that we know just aren't good enough across that back line at points? So for me, put Phillips and Dorrington out there. Phillips already has championship experience. So, I don't take that he's inexperienced. He'll know exactly how to play. Dorrington, yes, but I think he'll settle in. When you've got a Doji, Pedro, Porro, people like that, I think he would settle in, no problem. But you will have to make the changes. I think we've also, since the start of November, we've conceded 19 goals, the same amount as Nottingham Forest. Again, not sustainable if we want to achieve top four. So I'm sick of, reverting back to same old squad players, and there's such a drop off. So for me, put the kids in. You have absolutely nothing to lose. We conceded 4 last week, and it could have been 10. So I have no doubt that Phillips and Dorrington, you wouldn't concede that many or give up that as many chances as we did against Brighton. So I would make them change. Now, the reason why I've also brought Celso in for Ollie Skip is because you're looking at someone to get on that ball and progress it. I'm going back to the fundamentals of Postecoglou's system. He wants to play all-out attacking football, building out from the back. So you take out Davies and Emerson, who can't do it. You put in Phillips and Dorrington, who have shown they can do it. Then you also bring in Celso, who can pick up the ball, demand to pick up the ball, and start getting us playing forward into forward areas. That way, it takes the burden off him to be a creative player, which some people would argue he's not. You put him back into a deeper role and get him to start spraying balls around and getting us forward. And he'd do it a lot more regularly than what Ollie Skip would. And the reason why I bring Jeremy Donley in is, again, he sort of played in. Now, I know he's played in a 4-2-3-1 in the under-21s. But the way we play that left-sided midfielder, you could argue you could almost switch it up to that if you wanted. You're bringing Jamie Donley into a natural position that he's played for the under-21s. He's been a standout player for the under-21s all last season, all this season. Not only does he provide goals, but he also scores goals. And out of possession, he's as unselfish as you want. He will go and chase absolutely everything. What we lacked last week is people that wanted to do that grind out of possession. And that's what Brighton were able to just play from the back, from the goalkeeper, into the back line, into the midfield, into the forward line, because no one wanted to do that work. So if they don't want to do it, one thing you're going to get with Donley, he will bloody do it. And for me, I think he deserves this opportunity. Put him in a position where he's natural to, that he's accustomed to, and let him go and shine and see what he's all about, because he can't do worse than the shit that we seen at Brighton. At least when you bring in these kids, it'll freshen up. They'll have desire, heart, some passion, and the bare minimum, they'll run around and try and make it difficult for the opposition. Football is not a difficult game. All you have to do is outwork the opposition and show your class on the day. So hopefully we do that tomorrow. But guys, let me know what you think of my team. I'd nearly go one further and bring in Brian Gill on the right, actually, and drop Brennan Johnson. But maybe he can't make too many changes. But look, let me know in the comment section below. Sorry about being long-winded. But let me know in the comment section below. What team do you want to see? The one that I think Ange Postecoglou will pick, or the one that I would like to see out there that would give me a bit of renewed optimism. At least if we get beaten with kids out there, we've tried something different. But I would also say, because I know a lot of people straight away in the comments would be like, Dave, they're kids, you can't do it. Lewis Miley at Newcastle, Rico Lewis at Man City, Hinsel Hellwood, who scored against us for Brighton the other day. Guess what? He plays in the England under-19s with Dorrington, Phillips and Donley. And there's other players there as well that I haven't. Manu at Man United as well. So there's no reasons or no excuses why we can't do it. The difference is Ten Hag ran into problems, injury problems, this, that, and the other. He put his faith into the kids rather than persisting with some of the same players that have let him down before. Brighton, De Zerbi, he's also has as many injuries, suspensions, etc. as us. He puts his faith in kids. And that's why Brighton are able to sell a lot of these on. And that's why everyone's looking at their model. How are they getting all of these young guys to come in here and play this way? Well, it starts with being brave. And for me, Postecoglou, and this ain't any criticism at Postecoglou, I'm behind the man. I absolutely love the guy. I don't want to see him to continue make the same mistakes that other managers have made previously, where they look at the age, their international caps, and say, we're going to put you in over the kids. Sometimes you need the kids to come in and give everybody a kick up the ass, and I'd argue there's no harm in it. But look, let me know in the comment section below. Also, give me your score prediction. I'll see you back here at 10:30 a.m. in the morning for the pre-match build-up. As always, come on, you Spurs. In the big arms we trust. We never stop. Happy New Year, all. Come on, you Spurs. Let's go, baby.